let's see how exactly the naming convention and etc. works. Okay, let's get into its details. Let's use just one table to understand it rather than working on the entire model. So what I'll do, I'll create a new logical physical. I'll go here, paste the entity I copied. Okay, so we'll make the changes here in this table naming convention to understand how naming convention plays. Okay, so the first thing is naming standard. Okay, right click on this, create new, and I say test1. This is the name of the naming convention. I'll again right click this, go to properties. Remember to mark it is active. Okay, unless you do it, it will not work. Add the glossary of terms. So based on this, I'll add some. For example, state, I'll add ST abbreviation, and whether the state will work as a prime or a modifier or a class word. Okay, so I'll say it will work as a modifier, modifier 1, modifier 2. Then I'll add another one, province. PVC, and it will act as a modifier 1, modifier 2, and for the state we will keep it as prime. Let's make it as prime rather than, because it is usually appearing as the first word in the table. Then we'll add code. Code, as you can see, code is the last word. Okay, so I'll make it a class word. Class word CD. Then I'll add another one, which is coastal. PST, and I'll make it a prime as well. Okay, so these are the 4 words I have added. Now you can import it from the Excel, from the CSV, or you can keep on adding like this. So usually what I do is I import it from the CSV. So a normal CSV format will be like this. Okay, so this is the normal CSV format. If you want, let's compare it with, see, the first one is the word, like for example order is the word, then is the abbreviation ORD I want to use, then the alternate abbreviation comes into picture if abbreviation is for some reason not working. Okay, so here you will get the alternate abbreviation. You will have to use commas to delimit it because it's a comma separated. So since I don't want any alternate abbreviation, I have kept it blank. Then you can write here whether you want to use it as a prime, modifier 1, modifier 2, or class 1. So accordingly you will put capital X here. Okay, remember to use capital X. So since I want to use it as a modifier 1, I have kept X here. Okay, then it's for modifier 2. If you want to use modifier 2 as well, you will put X here. If you want to use a password or class word also, you will put it here, and you can write a short description here if you want. Okay, so this is your CSV that you can use, and once you click on this import CSV and give the location of the CSV, these terms will be imported in the naming standard editor. Okay, so this is how you can simply create the glossary.
Can you just put at the top about the naming part, like what you mentioned, like what location belongs to what, so it will be easy for me to remind it for later use,
Okay, so
like order or the.
okay, so I'll put it, but just remember, see the number of columns here: word, abbreviation, alternate abbreviation, P, M1, M2, C, definition. Okay, so just put it like that.
Oh, got
So
it, got it, got it, got it. Yep,
okay, so
okay,
you
got it,
word,
got it. Yep.
I was not putting it because by default it will also
Mhm.
pulls that the header line, so you will have to then delete it manually. Okay,
Yep, 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 got it. Yep. Thanks.
so just simply like this. So in ERWin, what the trick is, whenever there is any place where you see such kind of check boxes and you want to pull the data from Excel in order to activate those check boxes, you always use capital X over there, okay, for check boxes. So these are the four glossary items I have added. Now this order is very important and we'll see how it works, this order. Prime, modifier 1, modifier 2 and class. But generally in naming convention, the method is you can add a prefix, a fixed prefix, a fixed suffix for table name or column name. Then the order is prime, then modifier 1, modifier 2 and class 1. This is the generic way. So this is the generic way, prefix to use a naming convention in a data model: prime, modifier 1, modifier 2. You don't go beyond modifier 2 because then it will make your name a very long name. And then you use class word in the end to classify a column, whether it's a date, time, as we discussed yesterday, or basically amount or description. Based on that you add a class word. Modifier 1 and modifier 2 gives you an information about the type of data you are storing in that column. Prime gives you an idea of the total data that is there in that table itself, or the larger group the column is part of, and prefix gives information about the table to which the column belongs. So we will see everything: prefix, suffix, and at the end you can also use suffix, but we avoid it once we have added the class word. Okay, all right, so now once we are done with the glossary, let's go to the logical part. In the logical, we'll see the example of naming the attribute only, the column. Okay, so I'll do here. So here you have to select the sequence: part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, whether you want prime first, then modifier 1, modifier 2 and then class. You can select here. So by default, or I mean the right sequence is select prime first, then modifier 1, modifier 2 and then class. Okay, this is the correct sequence. In the physical also you can do this: prime, modifier 1, modifier 2 and then class. Okay, so we have worked on glossary, we have worked on logical, we have worked on physical. You can now close it. So it has saved it. Now comes the implementation part. So you have created a naming convention. Now we have to apply it on our table and column. So we'll go to model, not model, naming actions. In actions, go to model naming conventions, model naming options. Okay, so here you specify what kind of naming option you want to apply to your model. So if you want to convert the entity name to uppercase, you can use upper. If you want to just convert the first letter to the uppercase, you can use initial. Okay, so for example, I want to convert entity name to upper. In the logical, I'll use upper. Once I apply, you will see the change here. Then similarly in physical also you can do that, tables, columns, etc. If you want to use uppercase, we will say upper for the column names. See, the maximum length it has set to 128. This maximum length is according to the database that you have selected. So if you select DB2 also, I think it will be 128. In SQL Server also, the name of the column can be up to 128 characters long. Then the name mapping. So in the name mapping, now you have to specify that you want to use glossary for entity to table, for domains, and for attribute to column. Now here is the place you specify the prefix. So for example, for column I specified prefix T1 underscore. Okay. And then you click OK. So see, it has changed to upper character, right? Now once we convert it to physical, see what it has done. It has converted, it has added the prefix T1 underscore as we specified. Then it has converted state to ST, province to PVC, and code to CD. Okay. So this is how the naming convention works. Now in order to verify whether your naming convention is working correctly or not, you go to tools, standards, and then check naming standard compliance. You select table, column, domains, and click on start. Okay, so it is saying that you don't have default word in your glossary, so you can ignore it. So what it is expecting, so this will tell you which are the terms you need to define in your glossary. So dim geography, we have not defined anything for DIM, we have not defined anything for geography. That's why it is saying that you do not have this defined in your glossary. Similarly, it will show for T1 geography key. So then T1 city, T1 underscore, because we do not have T1 defined in our glossary. Okay, that's why it is giving the error. So this way you can check it. Another thing to check is go to tools, standards, check naming standard compliance. If you click on check word order and position as well, then it will also check whether you have positioned your prime, modifier 1, modifier 2 and class word correctly or not. So once you click start, it will start showing you the error. Okay, so it is showing us the error that none of them is positioned correctly. Okay, so let's check for this one, T1 as state province code. This one, it is showing that it is not doing it, it is not working correctly. Okay, so let's correct this and see how we can correct this ST PVC code and remove it from the error. So it is saying column T1 has words which are not defined correctly in the name standard object glossary. Secondly, its name is ST PVC and then code. So state province code, that means state is working as a prime, PVC is working as a modifier, and CD is working as a class word. Okay, so let's make it accordingly. Go back to our naming convention. Properties. In the glossary, we will add t1 underscore, which we have added as a prefix, and we'll keep it as t1 underscore. We'll mark it as a prime. Okay. Then we'll go to physical, because we are interested in physical only, and then we'll say that column name as a prime, modifier 1, modifier 2, and a class code, class word. So we go here, it is prime, then state, province, code. So state we will do at modifier 1 as well, province modifier 1, modifier 2, and code is already a class word. Okay, so let's close it. Again go back to logical, again go to dimensional, physical data model, tools, standards, check naming standard compliance, click on check word order and position. Unless you check there, it will not show you the error. Start, ignore this one, ignore this, ignore this, is still showing us. It should not show now. Okay, I'll have to check why it is showing now, but this is how you can check the position as well. Okay, usually we are more concerned about this part, table, column, domains, naming. So we have to convert the words into the codes, into the corresponding codes. So now you know you have to first create a naming convention file, naming standard file, by adding glossary, then marking its sequence in logical and physical. First part. Second part is going to action, model naming options, and then if you want to add, you can add a prefix here, a suffix here. Check this part, use glossary, otherwise it will not start using the glossary. If you want to convert anything to uppercase, go to select the uppercase here. Similarly in physical, select the uppercase here and then click on OK. Okay, so we are good here. Naming convention. Okay, so now you might be wondering how this dimension has appeared. Okay, so what happens is, when you create a model, okay, and you go to the physical model, for example, let's create a new logical physical model. I'll just show you an example. Click on OK. You go to model and then model properties, In ERWin, you can decide whether it's a data warehouse or a normal table by clicking here. Okay. In the model properties general tab, physical notation. So in the physical notation, if you select data warehousing, you will get dimensional over there. Okay, so I think you mentioned dimensional modeling also. So this is how you can select dimensional modeling. You select data warehousing here. Then in the modeling features, you have to select is dimensional. You select OK. And do you want data movement also? So do you want to map the columns tables to their data sources as well? If you want to capture that information also, so you say data movement, yes. Okay, and then you close it. So this part is very important in model property general tab, whether what kind of notation you want to use, what kind of model it is, data warehousing, whether it is dimensional or whether it is data, and whether it is dimensional or not, and do you want data movement as well. And you click close. See, now you will start getting dimensional rather than physical model. Okay.